Vinnieart, welcome back to the channel. It's October. That means horror content. You're getting inundated with horror content and trailer reactions to horror movies with me and Trey. I've enjoyed bringing this to you, but today we're going to talk about every major horror villain ranked by intelligence. This came out from CBR, and I am interested to take a look at this list. So we don't need to go through the preamble. I think we can skip right to the list, shall we? Number 10. Bubba Sawyer, Leatherface, is easily outsmarted. Also known as Leatherface, Bubba is the Sawyer clan's butcher in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. He proved inordinately strong and durable and capable of surviving point-blank shotgun blasts and even being slashed from a rivaling chainsaw. However, the main fear of Leatherface is his strength and brutality, rather than his intelligence. His kills don't require any strategies or manipulation tactics, but his ferocity and relentlessness makes him a terrifying killer. Leatherface is fairly easily to outsmart, especially when he's separated from the members of his abusive clan. He is easily outsmarted because he's, like they said, once he's separated away from the family, he doesn't really have a handler, and he's left to his own devices to operate in that manner, which he's not a very independently, strong character. Although he has his moments, we do know that the intellect is not what it could be or should be. Number 9. Jason Voorhees can adapt to any situation. Jason Voorhees is a frightening killer and the horror movie icon from the Friday the 13th franchise. He frequently takes his enemies by surprise and denies them the opportunity to run. His killing sprees rely solely on brute strength and fighting capabilities, which make him a near indestructible character. However, Jason was repeatedly outsmarted by Freddy Krueger in their fight during Freddy vs. Jason, and he almost lost. Nonetheless, Jason shines to his adaptability. When hunting down the visitors of Crystal Lake, he proved talented at using a bow and arrow. He is also fairly patient, willing to wait until they were trapped in the lake before striking out. Number 8. The xenomorph is a primal force of nature. The Alien franchise's xenomorph may be the closest thing horror has to a wild animal, although it plays its villainous role remarkably well. Instead of hoping to use its superior anatomy to resist crew members, it resides in the darkest reaches of the ship and waits for its victims to turn on one another. A hunter by nature, the xenomorph was profoundly successful in stalking its prey and wiped out most of the ship. It only failed against Ripley since she understood the ship far better than an invasive alien species could ever hope to. Number 7. Pinhead could have done more with what he had. Clive Barker's Hellraiser introduced audiences to the most powerful mainstream horror villain. Pinhead's success is only attributed to his raw supernatural might. The Cenobite's intelligence leaves much to be desired, which is evident when he rests his entire plans on lecherous, greedy men. Whether being misdirected into pursuing Frank Cotton or being foiled by a purer version of himself, Pinhead's defeats are particularly disgraceful considering that he outnumbers and overpowers his victims. Repeatedly, Pinhead's victims manage to exploit his hedonistic tendencies to banish him to his own dimension with the lament configuration.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Number 6. Freddy worked well with the dream world. A Nightmare on Elm Street. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger knew how to use the powers he had. Since he was only as powerful as those who feared him, he terrorized the most vulnerable subjects in hopes they'd spread his legacy to others. Despite the police's best efforts to suppress him, Freddy's nightmares eventually returned with a vengeance. Freddy was smart enough to conceal his identity and keep killing for many years before he died. But despite his craftiness, his intelligence cannot be given too much credit.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
Number 5. Ghostface has a habit of being overconfident. Scream. No matter the iteration, Ghostface's ability to plan for every outcome makes the villain a serious threat. For example, in Scream 3, Roman revealed he had faked his own death so people wouldn't suspect him to be Ghostface. Additionally, the double killer ploy has worked on 2 separate occasions, which speaks to Ghostface's knack for outwitting the law. Nonetheless, Ghostface's biggest downfall is that the villain gets too caught up in arrogance. For example, Billy and Stu stabbed each other so they could frame their victims while they were still alive. Predictably, this made the murderous duo much easier to defeat when the heroes escaped their restraints.
Huh? Sydney.
Number 4. Pennywise preys on his victims' worst fears. It. Pennywise was a supernatural being who preyed on his victims' emotions in both It and It Chapter 2. He deliberately showed the children their worst nightmares in hopes of exacerbating their terror and furthering the nourishing himself. Throughout the story, Pennywise proved his intelligence in multiple ways. For example, he proliferated the fear in the Losers Club rather than attempting to outright kill them. He also offered to bargain with them during the movie's climax, which suggests he knows the limits of his own strength. Pennywise's intelligence makes his vast arsenal of abilities even scarier. Number 3. Michael Myers' silence belies his intelligence. Halloween. Throughout the Halloween franchise, Michael Myers proves his intelligence. He's incredibly patient, which allows him to lure and kill his victims with ease. He can outsmart and manipulate his victims, and he also proves to be able to adapt and know his weaknesses. For example, Myers used a human head to imitate a jack-o'-lantern, which lured a victim within stabbing range. Myers also identified Laurie's safety bunker and almost immediately after breaking into her home, which made it more difficult for Laurie to escape from him. Perhaps Myers' greatest feat of intelligence was when he broke out of prison to terrorize the people of Haddonfield once again. Number 2. Billy was never caught. Black Christmas. Billy is one of the few horror villains to never receive justice for his evil. He spent the duration of Black Christmas picking off victims one by one, all within the cover of darkness. Eventually, the surviving women believed they'd uncovered Billy's identity, misdirecting the audience into believing the story had closure. However, in the movie's final scenes, the presumed culprit was revealed as a scapegoat, with the true mastermind behind the killings having never been caught. Billy's success makes him an underrated and fiercely intelligent villain.
The caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
And the number 1 entry on this list. John Kramer was a genius engineer and murderer. Saw. After being diagnosed with cancer, John Kramer realized that most people weren't grateful to be alive. To resolve this, he began capturing entitled and corrupt people and forced them to participate in a series of death games. A genius engineer, John's traps and saw never malfunctioned and always served their intended purpose. He was also a talented criminal, having evaded capture repeatedly. Eventually, John was smart enough to plant a mole within the police department itself, which made his arrest virtually impossible.
I want to play a game. Live or die. Make your choice.
So what did you think of the list? I think John Kramer at number 1 from the Saw franchise is kind of iffy for me. I mean, I guess based on intelligence, yes. Based on, if it was just a straight up horror movie, who's the best killer, I don't think he's number 1. But in terms of intellect and his traps, I think they lay out a pretty good case for why he's number 1. You never once saw one of his traps misfire or anything like that in any of the Saw movies. I watched the first 6. Anything after that, I refuse to watch, especially the new ones. They made one with like Chris Rock. I'm like, I'm not watching that. There's 6 Saw movies, and after that, it just turns to garbage. I'll probably never watch any of the other ones, but it used to be a tradition for me every year when those were released, dating back to 2004 when the first one came out, to go see them during Halloween. I would get really baked and go sit there in the theater with my popcorn and my soda and my frickin' Sour Patch Kids, because I've been doing it for that long, and watch Saw every Halloween when they dropped one, in the early aughts. So I'm all right with that, especially from a nostalgic perspective. But the list was good. We had some solid horror villains on there. You got your Freddy, your Michael Myers, your Jason Voorhees, your Xenomorph. It was pretty good. Leatherface. It's a good ensemble collection of horror villains. What did you guys think, though? Is there any that they missed? Should have been on the list that weren't? Now it's your time to opine. Let me know in the comments below. If you're not subscribed yet, hey, why not subscribe today? It's as good a day as any to subscribe, especially given all the horror content that we've released and how much more we have left this month, ladies and gentlemen. That is right. a lot more around the corner. I've got some Harvey Wakuian producer requests to fulfill. I have a video, a small documentary style video coming out on the Axeman of New Orleans as requested by my editor extraordinaire, Goodstuff Comixgater. Also, we have Lost Boys and Monster Squad requested by AngelousDraven. I'll be reviewing both of those. So much more on the way. Like I said, slap the subscribe button, ding the bell for notifications, like the video, share the video, comment below, let me know what you think, and that's it. I'm Temple Queen at the Place to Be Reviews. I've been here with all these. If I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like
It's better to burn out than to fade away.
I could do this all